Alrighty. Thank you guys, first of all, spending it's 8 a.m. on a Wednesday, so I know you might be a little sleepy, but I appreciate you guys joining the meeting here. Today, if you can't tell, we're going to be working on antecedent strategies, and on behalf of Mike, who made this PowerPoint for us. So, is there anybody that can tell me what they know about antecedent strategies? Is there any kind of thing that comes to mind when you hear that word or something that you already know? What does it mean to you to hear antecedent strategies that don't all call out at once?
Something that you do before a behavior.
Oh my goodness. Right on the money, Joanne. Very good.
Yeah, I was just
Um,
going to say the suffix ante, as in before.
yes. Yeah, absolutely. Antecedent. I got to figure out what the root word sedent means. Maybe it's just the actual thing, but that's besides the point.
Something tells me it's Latin.
Hmm.
Latin philosophers.
How it goes.
Yeah, exactly. No one surprised me. There's a lot of Latin stuff in our terms. So yes, like Joanne said, antecedent strategies, basically just something that we want to try to do before we get to the problem behavior. And before we started this meeting, we were even considering doing a de-escalation training too, which kind of reminds me of which actually is an antecedent strategy. Um, Before we hit that that behavior, I think it's like a increase or there's a term for it. We want to try and implement these strategies the best that we can to try to, avoid any kind of problem behavior that might be happening. And this is the presentation on it. So we'll get right into it. So antecedents have an immediate and a momentary effect. So these terms here, the MO and R, it might look like gibberish. So don't get too worked up on that stuff. Essentially, there's a motivating operation which just alters the probability of the behavior by altering the value of a consequence. So whenever I think of an MO, I think of somebody's, like MO is just their motivation for, let's say I wake up and I'm super hungry and I'm deprived of food and I'm extremely motivated. I'm most likely going to engage in some type of food seeking behavior to try to satiate that need, to show that, I'm hungry. I'm going to go get some food so that I don't have to feel this anymore. So the actual motivation itself alters the consequence of the reinforcement. Or I think this is yeah, the value altering the consequence, but also alters my behavior to cause me to engage in behaviors that would likely satiate the need of being hungry. And then a discriminative stimuli is just a momentary alters the probability of behavior by signaling a consequence is available. I always like this example because I think of either a vacancy sign or some kind of symbol that's notifying somebody else that reinforcement is available. Like even a bathroom, like the open and close sign. You go to like a porta potty, something
Right.
that has like it's red or it's green. Red's like, oh, somebody's in here, or it's green. Okay, then it shows reinforcement's available, thankfully. So it alters my behavior, and I can differentiate between the two of it. Is reinforcement going to be available to me, or is X, Y, and Z, are they closed right now? Um, and if anybody else have anything to add on this, feel free to just chime in, just cut me off, whatever you want to say. All right, so there's antecedent interactions. Antecedents will interact to influence the probability of behavior in the moment. So these motivating operations, I might look a little bit different to you guys. So the S delta, this is a SD is just a discriminative stimuli, and then S delta, I believe, shows that reinforcement is not available. Grace, is that right? S delta, I forget
Yes.
what it. Thank you, Mike.
Yes. Yes.
Very good, very good. And then the establishing operation that reinforcement's available, and then abolishing reinforcement as a consequence. I'm sorry, this establishes reinforcement as a consequence. So if the SD is in place and the it establishes reinforcement as a consequence, I'm more likely to engage in the behavior, as in, um, it just shows that reinforcement is available. The open sign, there's something that I want to engage in to try to, satiate whatever need it is. Um, the other one is the
Is
abolishing,
can like an example be like a restaurant if you're hungry?
as in, yeah. So if you're saying like, so let's say I'm hungry and I'm in a parking lot and I see the restaurant, that would establish that reinforcement would be available. Is that what you're saying, Mike?
Well, yeah, and I just think like when I see that open sign, like I'm really hungry. So there's a lot of motivation to access food as a form of reinforcement. It's been a
Gotcha.
long while since I ate. And I'm also driving by a Chick-fil-A, which is a great place to eat. When
Mhm.
those two kind of line up, when that establishing operation, there's a lot of motivation for that item. And it's also open. It's not a Sunday and they're open. It's the most likely time I will engage in that behavior of pulling in and ordering food and accessing that reinforcement.
So as in both is it's open and I also have to be hungry at the same time because if it's this kind of reminds me of we have VIPs that have a lot of food seeking behaviors. And Mike, I remember you teaching this like a couple years ago that, if we're going in the community with somebody and they're constantly taking stuff from Turkey Hill, they're taking hot dogs, like why don't we just make sure that they eat before we go out to kind of satiate that need so that it would abolish the need for reinforcement and satiate the need, I guess I should say. Um, and in terms of um, reinforcement, am I, so what's another example then if it's abolishes the need for reinforcement, as in I'm not hungry and then I don't really need to
Yeah,
seek
so
more.
like I drive by Chick-fil-A and I just ate. So there's no motivation to really access food because I just got done
Mhm.
eating. So that created an abolishing effect. But the store's open. So maybe I won't engage in that behavior.
Okay, gotcha. So it's not
Maybe I
intentional.
won't pull in because, there's no motivation to access that consequence. But the SD is in place. They are open. And I was working with a VIP on the floor the other day, and
Hmm.
he's constantly seeking out food.
Hmm.
And everyone's telling me he's eating, right? But he's on his tablet. And what is he watching on his tablet? Videos of foods, videos of drinks. And that to me was an SD that was in place that was triggering him to engage in going to seek food, even though he had an abolishing operation in place.
Hmm.
So, and the why we're explaining this to you guys is you guys could alter either one to change behaviors, to make behaviors more likely to occur or less likely to occur. Problem behaviors less likely to occur if you kind of understand these two dimensions of an antecedent and are able to manipulate them.
Very good. Thank you. And we move on to S delta, which shows that reinforcement is not available. Um, and it might establish the need for reinforcement and also is least likely to abolish the need for reinforcement. Um, I'm not entirely sure of examples of that,
So
honestly. But
think about the bathrooms. Think about going to the bathroom. I really have to go. There's a lot of motivation to use the bathroom. I get into
Mhm.
the bathroom and there's an out of order sign on the toilet. Signals that no reinforcements available. Well, I maybe will still engage in the behavior of using that toilet if I have to go bad enough. So maybe
Mhm.
I still would engage in that behavior, even though it's an S delta's in place or reinforcements not available in the form of an out of order sign.
Gotcha.
And if we don't have to use the bathroom and there's an out of order sign, I'm the least likely to use the bathroom.
Yeah, I would
Right?
hope
I
so.
don't have, and it's kind of funny to say, but that idea hits home that I'm not motivated to go. I just recently went, maybe, and it's also the bathroom's out of order. So when those two things line up, I'm the least likely to engage in that behavior.
Gotcha. I mean, that makes sense. Thank you, Mike, for the examples.
No problem.
All right. This is like some of my favorite stuff because this can kind of be applied to anything. And generic antecedent strategies basically just doesn't require a function. So these are going to work for, this will work for anybody, really. That's why I always kind of like this section of the PowerPoint because it's stuff that I know would be able to help out our VIPs or our friends, family, anything like that. So this is a classic one, environmental enrichment. And a lot of us do a really good job with this. I see in the day program and I see it out in the field. This is sometimes you'll notice a lot of VIPs, not all of them, but sometimes they get stuck in like this continuous cycle of doing the same kind of just the same kind of thing. So I have another VIP who a lot of times will just watch Barney on his tablet, which he loves Barney, but I feel like he's kind of stuck in this rut of continuously watching Barney. And sometimes I'll try to go there and put on a different movie, or I'll have him play Connect Four. Like I know Mike was doing that with a VIP the other day. This is probably the first time that he was exposed to playing a game like that. So something a little bit different, if something fresh that isn't like just kind of worn its value out, and something that's new. And so we just have a little bit here. Environmental enrichment could increase overall stimulation. It could, allow the VIP to gain attention, also access to tangibles and different activities. A lot of times, yeah, you're good. There's and the mechanisms behind environmental enrichment. It abolishes, which means it just decreases the value of attention-seeking behaviors, as well as the need to escape from things, or alternative sensory stimulation. I like using examples. I have a client now who will rip their t-shirt. And I've noticed if there's a lot of downtime, there's not a lot of stimulation going on, that ripping of the t-shirt seems to increase. And it just seems to, if I kind of engage him in some kind of task, his hands are busy, his mind's busy, and abolishes the need to, resort to any of that stuff. So, discriminative effects, so you can kind of tell the difference between two different things, and contingency braking effects. Mike, can you elaborate on contingency braking effects, please?
Well, contingency braking effects just means that um there's already a learning history in place for a potential problem behavior. So, and when we enrich the environment, it's more likely that these problem behaviors will fade by the wayside. So it'll have that contingency braking effect on a
Mm.
problem behavior, that it's not likely to occur as often when we have a very enriched environment, especially if we have problem behaviors maintained by attention, escape, or sensory stimulation as outlined on this chart. Because think about it, we're kind of providing that as an antecedent. We're providing attention, we're providing escape, we're providing a great time. And actually, we're not providing escape, we're providing an environment that no one would want to escape because we're having so much fun. So when we're putting all these in place, it's likely to break those old contingencies or make them kind of useless if we engage in them.
Gotcha. No, I mean, that makes sense. I see that happen a lot too. It's like almost beating them to the punch of, they're going to gain the attention in their own personal way, or we can try to give them the attention in a much more healthy, appropriate way. So that makes sense.
I have an example, a
Yeah,
good
yeah,
example.
go.
So we used to work, a couple people on the team used to work with a VIP who would have tried to escape taking a shower. They did not enjoy taking a shower. So we would use this environmental enrichment idea to make the environment more fun and enjoy. So we would play music while he was in the shower. This person really, really loved music. So something that helped him to stay in the shower longer and to go through each step was to listen to his favorite songs in the shower. This might mean there's another VIP I think of that also doesn't like showers or baths. And one thing we tried is they really liked toy cars. So we would put all the toy cars in the bathtub for him to play with. So those are just some ideas that I can think of off the top of my head that you guys can use to kind of enrich the environment.
Definitely. And I think a lot of us even do this in our personal lives too, in terms of, let's say we're driving, you're listening to a podcast, or even listening to music in the shower. I remember as a kid, we used to have like bubbles, or you have like little things that there'd be a toy car after you like dissolve the washcloth. You can kind of use it that way. That's kind of stuff that, like good smelling bubbles, stuff to try to make the shower more like appealing. So I think that's a good example, Grace. Is another one. I love this example. I know a lot of people at work use this too. Antecedent exercise. Um, it engages a person in physical or aerobic activities. It could abolish the need to escape anything. Either it could also serve as pain or anxiety reduction, and establishes positive reinforcement as well as an effective consequence. This just allows for like some stress release, some natural endorphins, and I think it's just good for anybody to get some exercise, get out there, and just even walk around, something fun. I know Sue does a great job with doing yoga with all the clients, and they seem to really enjoy that too. Also, this is right up Sue's Valley, relaxation exercises. You could have them engage the person that is incompatible with emotional behavior. So it's really like, if you're doing relaxation exercises, you're most likely not going to be, yelling and screaming. Um, there's a progressive relaxation and behavioral relaxation. I'm not entirely sure the difference between the two. But when I do think of relaxation exercises, I think of, you can even count down from 10. You could even do like modeling of you start with your toes, go to your ankles, that body scan, I think is what they call it. And
I think Sue
it-
has an example.
does she? I can't see the camera, so I'm not sure.
Uh,
Sue always uses this.
her special gift to the day program.
Nam- Namaste.
Namaste.
Yeah,
Namaste.
namaste doing yoga.
Where is Sue? Did we lose Sue?
She's in the
She's
basement.
her.
Oh
Yeah, she's
dear. There she is. I was like, did we lose Sue? Here.
she disappeared. Um, this could abolish the need for negative reinforcement by reducing any kind of pain or anxiety. And I know single-handedly that helps me a lot. I know Mike's big into exercise. It's just very helpful. And, I know even there's VIPs now that go to the Planet Fitness with their staff, and they really seem to enjoy that to the point where when that was taken away, they got really upset. And obviously, it was a pretty effective outlet for them. Counter conditioning and systematic desensitization. Maybe could condition the mind to seek out exercise instead of maladaptive behaviors. And again, if anybody else has anything to share or examples, feel free just to chime in. You don't have to ask. Cushion antecedent predictors. So this would modify events that evoke problem behavior as to abate problem behavior and make them less aversive. Likely motivation effects, it could abolish the need for positive reinforcement from staff in terms of providing them with attention, or it could also abolish the need to escape anything. And possible discriminative effects, it could, as an SD for positive reinforcement could be developed. Um, I think generally, I think of another client that I have now, which, I'm gonna try to stay away from using names, but I have somebody that I know historically does not like cups in their environment, or any kind of, drinks or sodas or water bottles. In his mind, he thinks that it needs to go away and needs to go away immediately. Um, so what I've done before, when I first was doing the interventions, I would either make sure his entire environment was clear of all those things. Now we're a day program, so it's not as easy to do that. So over time, I would slowly introduce an empty cup to him. And I would, after I'd have him wait for like 10 seconds, I'd say, okay, we can throw this out. Just give me 10 seconds. And then I'd allow him to go throw it out. And also, I know Victor actually was really instrumental in this too. Um, and then after a while, it was, 30 seconds. And now it's, just give me a couple minutes and then, make sure I'll throw it out for you. Or he enjoys throwing it out too. And now to the point now where he's able to sit down, he sees the things. And I've noticed a big decrease in his impulsivity to go throw the things out, which is, I was really happy with that. More or less like a waiting toleration. But I always make sure to try to get rid of the things that seem to trigger them in the environment. This is another big one. I know in the very beginning when I started this job, I was very guilty of mentioning bad behavior in front of either clients or caretakers. But I quickly learned that it's definitely not the way to do things. I think it could, like anybody else, would, it would make sense. It would really hurt your relationship with them, especially you're like, hey, my staff that I love so much is talking bad about me in front of my mom, and I really don't like that. And also bringing up these bad things that are, behaviors that I used to do that I really am a little ashamed of, and I wish they didn't do that. And sometimes people can't advocate for themselves too. So refrain from discussing problem behavior in front of the person. Um, and discriminative effects could be an SD for positive reinforcement through attention. It could also establish attention as a positive reinforcer as well. They could change the motivation for that.
And I want to add too, like it's not just mentioning bad behavior, but just mentioning anything that could be triggering to that client or their family members or anything like that. Just being cautious, and that's just emphasizing the importance of reading the ISPs before you work with your VIPs. Reading the behavioral plans if they have any beforehand, FBAs, doing FBA interviews. But it's always important to know like what limits you do have as far as like, mentioning certain things just by knowing certain things in the past, according to the documents that you read. So just be cautious of what you say, you guys, especially out in the field, especially at day program in front of your VIPs. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to add that in there.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great point. Um, And, I don't think we would want like, let's say when I'm growing up, my parents are talking to the teacher and they're bringing up all this bad stuff that I do. And you might start to believe like maybe I am that bad. And I like to kind of cushion it with here's something they're doing great with. Here's something we could work on. Here's another thing that I noticed they're doing good with and move from there. So, this is pretty self-explanatory medical treatment. If we notice a huge spike in a problem behavior that hasn't happened in a couple months and it's a pretty intense frequency, we like to start to lean towards maybe there's some reason behind it. We can always refer them for medical treatment. I know there's also a service through the HICU that a nurse might be able to come and evaluate if you're having trouble getting them to the doctor themselves. I have a client now who has migraines and has headaches and is not able to vocalize that. And sometimes you can tell by some of the behaviors that are going on. And like Curlin said, it seems to be even better. The more you know the client, the more patterns you can recognize, and it seems to be better that way. But motivating operation effects could abolish the need to escape tasks by addressing some of these concerns. Um, there's another one for abolish, also escape, and establish positive reinforcement as being an effective consequence, either tangibles, activities, or attention.
I think too to mention with the medical treatment, it's not just about medications, like taking medications, but it's also about seeking appropriate medical care. So, maybe a VIP is having challenging behaviors and they need to go see a dentist because they're having, pain in their teeth. That's not something we can very easily pick up on. So when somebody is having, pretty severe challenging behaviors, it's nice to make sure that we ask the family, when is the last time they saw their primary care doctor? When's the last time they went to a dentist? When's the last time, it could even be an ear infection. It could be, we had a VIP at one point in time that was having challenging behaviors and they had plantar fasciitis. And that's not something we can like easily pick up on. So I think it's good to mention that it's not just about taking medications, but it's also making sure that you are advocating for the VIP to go see appropriate medical staff if they're having problems. And that's one of the first things you should bring up and think about if somebody's, especially if somebody is having severe challenging behaviors or if somebody is having a sudden spike in challenging behaviors. I think that's super important.
Definitely, absolutely, good point. And I could even go into, you could even try to expose them to the instruments that might be, I mean, it's a little bit of a separate topic, but you could show them some of the dental tools, some of the noises that they might expect to hear before they go to those appointments to try to make it a little bit easier. Non-condition restraints and protective equipment. This is something that we really don't really kind of go into or really utilize, but use physical and mechanical restraints to behavior cannot be admitted. None of us ever used restraints or protective equipment unless it's approved by like an um, right human
For
rights committee.
human
Thank
rights.
you. I was like, wait a second, no, not an RBP committee. That's not it. Um,
But this
go
too,
ahead.
sorry, Brandon.
No, that's fine.
We don't use this one that much, but the one thing that I can think of that I watched a documentary. I can't even remember what it was called, but I think we've even mentioned this before in trainings that one behavior that this might be useful for, it's usually when it's very severe, um, like self-injurious behaviors like eye gouging. There's
Hmm.
people who, will actually like poke themselves in the eye to the point, actually, maybe this was a training, will poke themselves to the eye to the point where like they are going blind. That's where something like this might be necessary. Um, if it's going to be extremely harmful to their health or to the health and safety of other people. But very rarely is this really used. And you'd have to get special approval, not only from a human rights committee, but also from a BCBA. Oh, Mark, what'd you say? Hold on. I can't read it. I
Mark
remember that.
says he remembers it. Yeah, unfortunately, the woman did end up going blind. Pretty sure this is the state of Florida. And they're going to see if they
Yeah,
can stock her.
yeah. They tried really hard, and there was a lot of restrictions because that is a restrictive procedure to kind of, to do those things. And yeah, unfortunately, she went blind.
Yeah.
I
I
think
think they
another
even,
here too that they would consider something like this is it's not picking your hair out, but it's some type of picking like with your like your hair follicles or something. It was something, I don't even remember. It was something like with your head, but anything that'll cause like severe damage.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
can't
I know
really think.
we had a VIP who had arm restraints that eventually we started to cut back from the skin picking, and I think she seemed to enjoy them after a while too. But Grace, like you mentioned, has to be definitely needs to be approved. We're going to move on to function-based antecedent strategies for the functions of escape, attention, tangibles, or automatic reinforcement. Here's stimulus fading in. The purpose of this could abolish the need for negative reinforcement through escape or avoidance. Like it says here, you're gradually reintroducing a task or demand. And this kind of goes forward with anything that you're going to be teaching, and even in terms of like a forward or backwards chain if we're teaching a new task or instead of doing all of these tables, you're okay. We're just going to do, you can even decrease the response effort too and help them with cleaning over a table. I know Chris has been doing a really good job with one of the VIPs at day program. And, my advice to him too was I think to just to make sure that it's not too big of a task demand, but it also shows me that the VIP was very capable of completing these tasks. It was just a matter of presenting it to him. Um, and
And
then over
kind of,
time,
oh, I'm
what's that?
sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead. No, you're good.
Finish your thought. You
Um,
can finish your thought.
I forgot what I was gonna
I'm sorry.
say. You're good.
I didn't want you to switch
Yeah,
the slide before I got to say something.
that
Um,
was about to happen too. So that's good. Thank you.
okay, so one thing I think about with this too is maybe you want to maybe you want to add this in as an antecedent strategy. Maybe your VIP is engaging in hitting to escape a task demand. Maybe they I can't really think of a good example. Maybe you're asking them to actually, here's a good example. We used to work with a VIP who would only stay in the living room, and they would not go into any other room to really sit for long periods of time. And we were worried that they're only limiting their environment to one space. We want to generalize it to all spaces, even if it's just in the house. So we would practice taking them to, maybe a separate room, maybe their bedroom, maybe a dining room. In this case, it was a separate apartment area. um, so we would take them, we would bring edible reinforcers, and we would sit there for a duration of time. And what the point of it was to increase the duration of time over time. So let's say this person is not really tolerating staying in their bedroom longer than 2 minutes. So then we're going to start at 2 minutes, and then we're going to go to 2 minutes and 30 seconds and 3 minutes and continue to increase the duration until either the VIP or the family is really satisfied and it's socially appropriate. Um, you could do the same thing with like a task. If somebody is only engaging in putting dishes away in the dishwasher for 10 seconds, you can gradually increase the duration of that through practice. And one way to if you really want to include this in your plan, you'd have to collect baseline data in the beginning. So you want to see what is the current duration of time that the VIP is withstanding or tolerating whatever task or whatever goal that you're working on, and then start there and then work your way up.
Nice, nice, nice. Yeah, I like that. That stimulus fading out is a good example. Okay. Graduate exposure or desensitization. This reminds me of trying to overcome fears too. Any kind of like phobias or fears, you have to slowly like introduce things, kind of the same way that we did before too. And I think the way to do this is through relaxation training and also graduate exposure. Um, Motivating operation effects also abolishes the need for negative reinforcement and those contingency braking effects that we talked about before. Does anybody have anything they want to add for graduated exposure or desensitization? This also reminds me of showing somebody the tools that they might see at the dentist's office, like I was mentioning
Mhm.
before, or like blood pressure cuff, stuff like that.
The tools for a doctor's office. Also, I don't know I can't remember what the actual intervention is, but there's one VIP that's like afraid of bugs.
Hmm.
They have a difficult time going outside because they're afraid of bugs. So I think if I remember correctly, it was one thing that was talked about was like to inside the house have like, I think it was like plastic bugs or like fake plastic bugs or something, and then they would have to, that would be like exposure to that, and then eventually they would add it to the outdoor area. It was like they have to figure out a way to have it as like a controlled environment.
Yes, definitely.
I'm also thinking of Abby and Carrie's VIP at the day program, just building that
Example.
toleration for the day program because he wasn't used to
Mhm.
being in an environment that was so busy, always moving, always having something to do there. So just bringing him in there, waiting to see how long he can tolerate it for, and then leaving and reinforcing as you go is another big thing with desensitization. So, um, that's the first one that I thought of.
That's a good one. And that's another example where you're increasing the duration,
Hmm.
similarly to the stimulus fade in, which I think was the last one. Um, then this one you would also be able to increase the duration.
Yes, without a doubt. It's all good stuff here too. Curricular and instructional revision. Some ways to alter tasks or demands. This is kind of like what we were talking about before. Grace and Curlin, you guys both had good examples. Altering the timing of how long you might engage in something, maybe even when that task is presented. I like this one, embedding demands with reinforcing activities. So we're kind of like, I don't know, you can combine, it also reminds me of the shower activity too. You can combine some kind of chore while listening to music, or you can even like wash dishes while you're dancing, something like kind of silly too. I don't know how effective that would be, but in the beginning, it might be something that you can kind of pair the two. And decrease the response effort, providing them assistance, increasing predictability so they know like what to expect. Okay, I'm going to do this table, that table, and then I know I can watch my iPad. So I know, oh, okay, this really isn't as bad. Curricular revisions, I think just try to, that reminds me of Mike's example of, you have like a times table that has 20 questions on it, and you're dreading doing all of them. And then the teacher says, well, just do the odd numbers. And then you're like, oh, the odd numbers. Oh, okay, no problem. I can do that. And also, I think modifying the features of the task, those go hand in hand. And all these would abolish the need for negative reinforcement of escaping or avoiding something.
I think this one's going to go hand in hand with the next one too, providing choice.
Provide choice. Love this one. Do you guys want to talk about this one?
Um, sure. So let the person control some aspect of the task, type, order, timing. So this would be, for example, if you are asking a VIP to complete a chore around the house as a task, one way that you can provide choice to them is, do you want to do this now, or do you want to do this at, I don't know, 2 o'clock? Or you could even word it in a way that says, we can complete this now, or we can complete this later, but it has to be done within 2 hours. Maybe you're there for 2 hours. Another way that you can incorporate choices is maybe giving them instead of telling them which task they're going to do, giving them the options from multiple tasks. So maybe their goal is to only complete one chore per day. Okay, well, then it really doesn't matter which chore that they're doing. They could do laundry, they could do dishes. Maybe they're just going to wipe the countertops, whatever you're considering as a chore. That would also be a way to provide choice to them and decrease, challenging behaviors in order to escape a task. You can also have them provide choices with the order in which they're doing something. So, Brandon, can you switch to the next slide for a second? Because I don't want to get ahead of myself. No,
Mhm.
never mind. I thought this was going to go to pre-max principle, but I think that's somewhere. That's okay. So I think there was maybe a different training or something, but does everyone remember what pre-max principle is? And if you do, can you explain it?
I like this, like the grandma's rule.
Grandma's rule. Does anyone remember grandma's rule?
You gotta eat your vegetables before you have your dessert.
That sounded like my grandma. Who was that? No.
Me.
Don't do that.
Oh.
Oh my God. I'm dead. No, but yes, so that's exactly right. Sue is right. So that is, like for the first then statement, that would be like first you can do first you're going to eat your vegetables, then you can have your dessert in like the Premax principle. This is kind of a similar thought process with providing choices in the order. So maybe, and usually like the thought is you would have them do whatever the task is that you're asking them to do that maybe be more aversive, and then right out directly after some sort of reinforcing activity. So that could be one way also with your choices is like the order. So maybe they have to do 3 tasks. Well, first they could do this task and then they could do a reinforcing activity. Then they would do whatever second task they're choosing. Then they would do a reinforcing activity. So you provide a break in between, but it's similar to that same thought process where first you're going to do the task that you need to do. That was our goal. Then you'll do a reinforcing activity. Does that make sense to everyone?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
Make sure I explain that good.
Yes.
Okay.
I like it too, 'cause, I mean, you're kind of putting the ball in their court too. It's like, okay, we're going to be doing this, but how do you want to do it? It's like, well, we both have a little bit of control over it.
Yes, and I would just make sure because this is one thing I did see in the day program one day that I was working with a VIP is, I did a task of like just having them wash out their cup after they were done drinking their water. And it was great. Everything worked, fantastic. They were willing to do it, provided reinforcement. But the problem was the direct support staff don't know to provide a break in between. And that's extremely important. If you're going to have somebody do a bunch of tasks who has a history of having challenging behaviors to escape, you have to provide, even if it's a small break, you have to provide a small break between tasks. And typically you want the break to be like reinforcing, because not only is it going to reinforce them doing a good job with the task that they completed, but you're going to build that behavioral momentum to continue to do the following tasks that you have to do. So the staff at this point in time didn't provide a break, and we went from doing those dishes, even though it was very short, it was one dish, to, oh, this person enjoys cleaning, let's go clean the windows. And immediately there was challenging behavior because they went way too quickly from one task to another task. So I think something to keep in mind when you're doing like doing an intervention like that is to provide a reinforcing break in between. It doesn't need to be very long periods of time. Maybe it's like 10 minutes of just a reinforcing break, and then you can go and do another task that you need to do. I think that's really important. And that's going to prevent challenging behaviors to escape. You're going to reinforce the activities that you're doing. And I think it makes the overall experience enjoyable.
For
Does anyone have
sure.
any questions on that? I feel like I talked a lot and I went on a little tangent. Sorry. I'm hanging out with my car too much because he likes
Yeah.
to go on those tangents too.
I think it's the coffee. I think I'll do it.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm gonna have to get going soon, so I'm gonna try to finish this up. Time contingent escape. This kind of goes off of what you were just saying, Grace, too. It's like remove a task on a time-based schedule. So we'll do, let's just do the dishes for 2 minutes and we'll take a break. Or it's just so they don't think that this is going to be an ongoing, like I'm going to vacuum the floor for the next 2 hours. Like that's ridiculous. There'll be no carpet left. It's more like, okay, we can vacuum for 5 minutes and then we'll listen to music and we'll hang out. It's like, so it's not the end of the world. They don't think it's going to be a forever task, and this would abolish the need to escape or avoid something. Um, Relocate the client or others, move the person to a different setting, interesting, permanently or temporarily. This kind of reminds me of like freshening up the environment. Maybe bring them to a break room or some quiet room where they could calm down. This might also abolish the need to escape or avoid a task. Move the actual location of the activity. You could do this, I think this is also, so the activity is the same, but it's in different environments too. Um, Again, that kind of, destroys the need to escape or avoid something. Uh, I feel like it keeps things fresh too. It's like I go to the gym, I go to the same gym, I go to the same machine. Let me go to the gym and go, or I even go to a different gym, or I try a different machine. I'm still at the workout place, it's just a different area too. Oh, who's that? OMG. Grandma, how'd you get on my slide?
This is
What are
in
you
here
doing?
somewhere. Okay, well, we talked about this already, so
I did not get consent for this picture to be on here. Okay.
I can't get out.
So who was that? That's life alert. First life, then alert. That's what this reminds me of, pre-max principle. Behavioral momentum, the high P and low P probabilities. What were you saying?
I said I mentioned this too. I got way ahead of myself.
Yeah, you knew they were in here somewhere. Like if this reminds me of doing like flashcards of words that I'm trying to teach, and the first two I use are the ones that I know they're going to get right, and then that third one is it's just to kind of create the momentum going, and then that third one there might be a little bit more likely to get correct or even follow through with a demand. And then you immediately follow it with positive reinforcement, like "good job" or "thank you for being so helpful" or "great job labeling this card here too." Um, Time contingent delivery of attention. This kind of goes without saying, especially on a time-based schedule. Even every 15 minutes, you're going to give them quality attention, go over, spend some time next to them, engage with them in an activity, and this may be able to abolish the need for positive reinforcement from other people. And this goes for any of us too. It's like, hey, you just go up to somebody, hey, how are you doing? What's new? Oh, okay. And they won't have to engage in the maladaptive prime behavior. And then there's SD for controlling strategies. Instead of having to prompt somebody, you want to try to transfer that actual skill to a natural environment. So you're bringing it from the actual teaching table out into the natural environment. So if I'm teaching colors um, on a card, I always want to make sure I'm generalizing it to other settings too. Um, and also for attention as well. Tangible access to tangibles or activities. This can be time contingent access to tangible items or activities. Just making sure that they have access to these things on a time-based schedule as well. Um, and if this is somebody that frequently engages in food-seeking behavior or access to tangibles, very reinforcing, we kind of beat them to the point where they engage in the maladaptive behavior and provide them access to tangible on a consistent schedule too. And I can help break that contingency there. This one is very nice too. I like this because it's more of like a sensory stimulation thing, providing access to source of stimulation on a time-based schedule. I have a client now who loves spinning a straw in his chair, and he's been doing this for a long time. And I noticed without that, he becomes very anxious and will resort to either ripping or sometimes breaking things. And that could abolish ri- uh, sensory stimulation in a like more of a maladaptive way that kind of decrease it as being effective. Fidget spinners, twirly birds, toys, fun things that we have in that sensory cabinet in the back of the program there. This isn't something that we really do ourselves. I know there are medicine trained staff at day program, like time contingent delivery prescription drugs or drug substitutes, provide medication on a time-based schedule. There's PRNs, there's BID, every 6 hours, every 4 hours, every 12 hours. These are all time-based schedules that these doctors use for us. Um, Transfer of appetitive features of restraints by fading them out. This is if somebody seems to enjoy um, the actual stimulation that they get from restraints. And two different ways to do that is to reduce the physical features of that restraint itself or increase the time without those restraints based on the latency. And thankfully, we don't do this all too much, but there are some VIPs who find, um, some procedures and restraint procedures to be fairly reinforcing. But that is all I have for this PowerPoint. If there's any other questions or anybody else that wants to add anything, feel free to jump in, or if you have any other comments or concerns, even Grace or if anybody else wants to share, more than welcome to.
Thanks, Brandon.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
problem. I would say, and if there's anything else, I'm gonna, this Grace, by the way, thank you so much for making that like OneDrive thing. I was able to find this training in that OneDrive. In my head, I'm like, where can I find this? I'm like, wait a second, I know where I can get this. Grace just made this like thing here. I'm like, wait, I found it. So before that, I didn't know where I was gonna be able to get it. So now I know. If you go back in the BH chat and look at Grace's posters and all these trainings that are there too. They're super helpful for, we can use these for paper support plans or even just work with any of our clients. Um, but I think
So we are going to have a meeting on that, right? Because I don't know how to do that
yes.
fancy flash drive stuff. I'm so old school.
I was hoping that you'd be able to help me out, try to figure it out, but
You're right. Yeah.
Well, of course, I'll sit there. I'll show you how to do it. It's no problem. It's really, you'll be able to breeze right through it before you know
I looked at it and I'm like, well, I'll have my mentor or Brandon help me out.
it. No problem.
Thanks.
It's very
Yeah.
easy, I promise.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
also, what's nice too is if you look in those training files, we also included any YouTube videos. So on Mike's channel, all the YouTube videos that go along with the training so that you can watch them there too.
Make sure you subscribe to Mike's YouTube channel, smash the like button, and turn on the notifications. Trying to get the subscriber count and the view count a little bit up, so we're getting there. And this video will be uploaded to YouTube too, so just so everybody knows.
1 million
Push
subs.
the
Here we
like
come.
button on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. We're going to be viral on TikTok Reels. Just really quick trainings.
We need a social media marketer.
So
So
Hey, I'll do it.
you'd be good on. You'd be good. I can see you doing that. But other than that, that's all I have for today. I got to get going. I know one of my VIPs is going to be here soon. But appreciate
Brandon,
you spending your Wednesday
Thank
mornings.
you, Brandon.
Thank you,
Good night.
guys.
Thank you, Brandon. Have a great day,
Thank
everyone.
Have a